Robert Littall will hang out with us for an extra segment from Black Sports Online, their founder. Get his thoughts on the Sweet 16, Elite 8 to come this weekend. Tino Pattigno is here because if it's a Friday, it's a NASCAR Friday. Big race, short track racing in Martinsville this weekend for NASCAR. We'll get into that race with him. Who does he like? Could Tyler Reddick actually win again? Short tracks aren't his thing, but we'll see. We'll get into that coming up a little later on. Big news from the NBA. Adam Silver talking about anti-tanking measures. We'll get to that in odds and ends and a whole bunch more. But we start things out as we always do on this Friday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story yesterday, I mean, look, they say you can go to a baseball game a million times and see something you never expected to see. Well, that was yesterday at Citi Field, where the Mets took on the Pittsburgh Pirates. A lot of optimism around this Pirates team this year. I was talking about it yesterday on the show with Brian Kenny, who's not as high on them as, say, I am or others might be. And I'm not saying high as in we think they're going to win a World Series or anything like that, but that they could be more competitive this year. And in a National League Central that is kind of, well, let's be honest, it's a floating dumpster fire. After the Brewers and the Cubs, where do you really go in that division that gets you all that excited? I mean, why not a team like the Pirates or the Reds, to potentially be in the mix? Anyway, if you went to yesterday's game between the Mets and the Pirates, you probably didn't expect to see Paul Skenes lifted in the first inning of the game. That's right. What did he throw? 36 pitches? 39 pitches? Something like that? Gets lifted in the first inning after giving up 5 runs. By the way, thanks in big part to O'Neal Cruz, who couldn't catch anything in center field in the first inning of that game. But as I'm watching that and reading the news this morning, and this is where the big story really picks up. Jon Heyman, Foul Territory and MLB Network and all those great baseball shows, longtime baseball writer. Jon Heyman reported today that the Yankees had made inquiries in the offseason on Paul Skenes, and that they had even made inquiries, I think, last year at the trade deadline on Paul Skenes, that they wanted to try and get him from the Pirates, and that they offered up 4 top prospects in exchange for Paul Skenes, and the Pirates weren't even interested. Now, we had this conversation last year during the baseball season, and I'll say it again. Watching on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, our friend over there, I love you guys. This is idiotic. I have never understood, and it's not just a Pirates thing. It's an organizational thing. I have never understood the idea of teams that glom onto pitchers and simply will hold on for dear life and not let go. Or hold out for something more than the Yankees' 4 top prospects, whatever those may be. Spencer Jones, and throw in, a few other guys. Maybe Jason Dominguez is included in a deal like that. The philosophy doesn't make sense to me. You've got a guy that's going to play 30 to 32 games a year, Paul Skenes. Let's say he makes 30 starts. 32, 33 starts in a year. Versus position players that are going to play 140 to 150 games a year, especially if you're talking about top prospects. Not every prospect is going to pan out. I get that. But the difference between winning a World Series and losing a World Series right now for the Pittsburgh Pirates, a star-deprived organization. Say what you want about, Ryan O'Hearn and Brandon Lau. Congratulations, they had home runs yesterday in the loss against the Mets. The difference right now for the Pirates is not Paul Skenes. It's the lack of talent around Paul Skenes. So you can have Paul Skenes all you want. And Connor Griffin's going to be up there eventually hitting bombs for this team, and that's great. But there's still not enough talent around him. What if you can get 2 good pitchers, 2 good position players, and maybe half of them pan out, maybe 3 of them pan out? Look, it's prospects. Maybe none of them pan out. But what you're doing right now, building around Paul Skenes, is not working. It just doesn't make sense to me. Then there's the economic side of it, which also doesn't make sense for me. Paul Skenes plays 32 games a year. Maybe half of those are in your ballpark. Okay, so for 13, 14, 15 games a year, you're drawing some extra fans. If you bring in other star power, those fans are coming every night to watch those guys. One, because you're winning more baseball games, because you actually have a larger spread of talent on your team. So you're making more money as an organization. Go look at where the Pirates stand in attendance. You'll find out what I'm talking about. It just doesn't make sense to me. And look, I don't know what the 4 prospects were. Maybe they didn't like the prospects. I don't know. But to hang on for dear life to Paul Skenes, as if that's the one piece you can't do without in order to get this team back just to respectability at this point, doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying this because I want the Yankees to get Paul Skenes, because I know people are going to see the Yankee hat behind me and say, oh, he just wants them to get Paul Skenes. I'm a baseball fan more than I'm a Yankee fan. I want to see the Pirates be good again. Baseball's better when a team like the Pirates, one of the flagship franchises of this game, is better. And with the exception of, a year? Over the last 25 years, they've been terrible. You've got to change your thinking. And eventually, if you keep losing, Skenes is going to ask out anyway and say, I'm not staying here. So I don't know what the long-term plan is. I'm not sure if, maybe they're holding out. Maybe we get to the All-Star break and, they're 20 games under 500 and they decide they're going to trade him, which seems like a smarter thing to do with me if that package of prospects is there for you. But what you're doing currently, the plan to build around Paul Skenes if you're the Pirates, it ain't working. Let's try something new. Let's come back. We'll talk Sweet 16, Elite 8. Robert Littal is here. A lot to do over the next hour. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show on this Friday. Sam Yarnell off for the second straight day. Says he'll be back on Monday. I'll believe it when I see it. That means we get to hang out for an extra segment with our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, the co-pilot chair today. Can we announce the book thing? Can I do like Donald? Can I do like Donald Trump, where he was in the cabinet meeting yesterday? He's like, "Hey, can I talk about the gift?" And then
you can. We do an official announcement on with the press release and all the great stuff.
No, that I won't. I don't want to spoil it, but I don't want to scoop it, but you got something very cool coming out.
There's been scoopage that is going on.
No, I'm not. I won't say it. It could be. Can I say the book thing could mean you're going out and buying a book today? There might be a book you were looking to buy.
Let's just say good things are coming.
Good.
Just stay tuned.
All right. So then we'll talk about it next Friday. I want to make sure that we're promoting you adequately since you come and hang out with us here on the show. That's all.
I really appreciate it.
Just making sure we do that. Robert Littal is the founder of Black Sports Online. He is a terrific friend of the show and has been for a long time, and hangs out with us today with Sam being off. So I'm watching this. This NCAA tournament. We'll do the top story stuff with him that we usually do coming up in a couple of minutes. But looking ahead to this Sweet 16 and looking back at what happened on Thursday night and looking ahead at the Elite 8. I mean, this East region is. I said this to our friend Bill Bender on Monday. This could be the best Sweet 16 region. These games that we're going to see over the next couple of days with Duke, Michigan State, St. John's, UConn, that we have ever seen. This is really good.
Yeah, you got some blue bloods in there. And I think we talked about this last week, is that as you go through the tournament, it's fun at the beginning because you have a lot of the seeds that are lower, upsets, teams that you never heard of before, like High Point, getting attention. It's really fun and everything like that. But as you get towards the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, the blue bloods start to kind of push through. The main teams that have been good all year start to push through, and then we really see, you know, who's the creme de la creme. And I think that's when you get a little bit better, you know, basketball, and the teams that you're used to seeing are now getting those primetime spots. And I mean, we've already seen it on the other side of the bracket. You know, 1 and 2 are kind of already in the Elite Eight with Arizona and Purdue. Now it's going to be a high seed, you know, going forward on the other side as well. So I think it's going the way most tournaments go.
Yeah, is Kelvin Sampson ever going to win one? You know, if not UConn, Kelvin Sampson was the guy I was rooting for in this tournament. If not the Huskies, I want to see Kelvin Sampson finally win one. And it just feels like, man, they were so flat. That game was 22-20 at the half. Something like that, 24-20.
Yeah.
I mean, some ridiculous score. It looked like a high school basketball game score at the half. Like, it was that kind of bad. And I mean, like, East Haven High School basketball kind of bad at the half. Sorry, no offense to my friends, and I am a former East Haven Yellow Jacket, but our basketball team was just hot garbage. So, I watched this game, and they came out so flat. Then you've got Arkansas, which gets its doors ripped off, which doesn't surprise me all that much. The Nebraska-Iowa game, which I'm just still trying to wrap my head around how you put 4 guys on the court.
Wow.
And like Fred Hoiberg. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, with college basketball, you know, I think some people think, you know, college basketball is more interesting than the NBA, just, you know, from a fan, you know, perspective.
Sure.
But at times the actual product is not that great on the court. I mean, you can tell the difference between NBA players and college players, and I think we saw a little bit, you know, of that last night. You know, it's you know, trying to win a championship is hard. I remember they used to say that about, you know, Dean Smith. You know, I remember Coach K had some struggles, you know, before he broke through.
Roy Williams did too.
You know, the guy from Gonzaga has never, you know, won, even though he's had teams in the Final Four a lot. It's a tough tournament. You know, sometimes it's just who gets hot. Other times a team is just overwhelmingly better. It's really a kind of sometimes a luck of the draw. So it's hard to say that someone will never win, but you know,
Matt Painter will never win. See, I don't think Matt Painter's a good coach. I'm sorry, and everybody will defend him to the hill. Oh, all these trips to the NCAA tournament, they win at least one game every time. And all these apparent Matt Painter will never win it. That team will never win.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, I'll be honest with you. With college basketball, I mean, no offense to the coaches. You know, I look at what Duke puts out on the court against some of these. It's not fair. I mean, it's fair. I mean, they recruited them or whatever. It's not like football. You know, but football is like you got to have 22 guys. So there's chances for teams that maybe aren't as talented to scheme up. You know, I think Indiana schemes up. And, you know, that's how they beat teams. I mean, it's hard to beat Duke. You know, I mean, they got like 8 guys that are like 6'9". They look like they can already play in the NBA. Yeah. You know, Arizona has a bunch of guys so sometimes it's just a talent situation more than the coaching.
And I'll say this: game effort by Texas last night, and hats off, you know, Purdue, for all my disdain towards Matt Painter as a head coach. They find a way to get it done. Trey Kaufman-Renn, the big tip in there it is for Purdue as they get the win over Texas. All right, who comes out of that East region between Michigan State, which is the only Big Ten team I can tolerate, Michigan State in basketball, Michigan State, Duke, UConn, St. John's? Who's coming out of that region?
I mean, I hope it's St. John's, to be honest with you. And here's the thing, this is just totally personal. You know, I don't like Duke. I don't like the coach from UConn. I think he's over the top. I do like Michigan State, but Draymond Green went there, so I don't know if I like them either. So, but like I said, from a talent standpoint, I think Duke is just more overwhelmingly talented than the other, you know, 3. So as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot like they almost did against Siena, you know, just thinking it's a guaranteed W, I think they come out of that.
What's crazy is UConn might be the 3rd best team there.
Yeah. I mean, I think St. John's has a shot. Like,
they do. St. John's St. John's comes into this tournament hot. Yes, that's exactly it.
And so, you know, when you're hot, a lot of things can happen. And the one thing about basketball, it only takes one really good, 3-point shooting night to take down a Goliath. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna go chalk if that's the way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, those Boozer boys are really good. I have UConn, Michigan, by the way, in my final. So I'm still hanging in there. My Final Four. I think my Final Four is still in there. Although I think I had Purdue out prior to what happened last night. All right. We're going to go through our usual fun topics of the week that I want to talk about with Robert Littal. That's coming up as we continue on this Friday Sports Wrap. All right, Robert Littal hanging out with us for the entire, well, not the entire show today, but for an extra segment. So we've already heard from him. But now we're going to get into our normal weekly routine with him, which is going around the sports world and talking about the stuff that sometimes we have time to get into. Sometimes I just want to get his perspective specifically on certain things. Founder of Black Sports Online hangs out with us every Friday. So I saved this one just for you because you and I have a thing here. Or maybe it's just I have a thing and I've dragged you into it, which is this all this Stephen A. Smith drama, the palace intrigue that exists in the sportscasting industry. We've been dealing. If anybody's a fan of New York sports radio, there's one of these feuds is going on right now between a former host at WFAN and the morning show host Greg Giannotti and Brandon Tierney. Brandon, who I used to work with at a couple of different stops along the way. In my career. He's a really talented guy. They've been going at it this week, and I'm just sitting here watching this stuff going, like, really? Like, if I dragged out every bad story, Robert, that I had working in radio, not so much television, but I've seen it more in radio and dealt with it more in radio over the course of 30 years, I could fill a book, hint, I could fill a book with all the stories of the, I hate using this word, of the scumbags that I worked with in this industry over the course of 30 years. I could fill a book with it. But now we're at a point where just everybody's pouring this stuff out real time. The latest version of this is Jason Whitlock versus Stephen A. Smith versus Cam Newton versus Ryan Clark, who somehow got himself involved in it. Cam Newton having Jason Whitlock on his podcast. And apparently they had beef at some point. Then Cam Newton asks Jason Whitlock to talk about Stephen A. Smith, and everything goes off the rails with Jason Whitlock basically bashing Stephen A. Smith for 15 minutes. So, of course, Stephen A. Smith has to come back and respond with his thoughts, and then everybody starts piling on. Ryan Clark's got an opinion. What the hell is going on here?
Well, everything is wrestling. I always say, I remember we text and I'm like, it sounds pre-planned, doesn't it? It sounds, like this was something that they all thought out in the little back room and said, oh, this is, I'm going to get all the attention and everything. Media people were never supposed to be famous. We're never supposed to be the stars. We're never supposed to be front. The whole thing, they call it behind the mic for a reason. You're behind, you're not front facing. That's all changed, with social, media, where now we have media analysts that spend more time talking about each other than the actual games and things that they are supposed to cover. It's become the young and the restless. Stephen A. Smith is Victor Newman. It's become reality television. It's Love Island. It's La Bachelorette. It's almost so ridiculous. But then you realize that's what people engage in. These are the clips that they put out. First Take puts out a clip, not about March Madness, not about the NBA, not about the WNBA signing their contract. They put a clip out that simply had Stephen A. Smith saying for 5 minutes that he's thinking about saying something about Jason Whitlock. That was the clip.
Yeah,
not him actually saying anything. Him
it.
saying he's going to think about saying anything because he got a lot to say. And to me, I don't know, is it, do you blame the consumer? Are we drug addicts? Is this like a drug?
Yep.
Is it bad for us? Is it like, eating too much bad food, but we can't help ourselves? And, who's at fault here is hard for me to say. I don't like it, but it could be mainly because at a certain age, like you just said, Why? Like, what is the point?
I'll tell you though, but I don't blame the consumer.
Okay.
I do blame, because the ultimate power rests with the platforms.
All right.
The ultimate power rests with Stephen A. Smith. The ultimate power rests with Cam Newton. They're the ones trafficking it. Mm-hmm. If there were no drug dealers out there, you'd have nowhere to get the drugs. So to me, the problem lies with ESPN that's allowing Stephen A. Smith to use the platform that he has, this blessed platform that he has, to traffic in this stuff. Cam Newton using his platform to bring on Jason Whitlock. And look, maybe you have an answer to this. Is there a single redeeming quality to Jason Whitlock that you even give him the platform to come on and talk about this stuff?
No, I mean,
have you met him? Have you ever met him?
I thought. I don't know if it was Bomani Jones or Van Lathan. One of them was like, there's nothing about Jason Whitlock that hasn't already been said that nobody can say again.
I'm proudly blocked by him on X. So,
and I've always said, and I've told people this, that tell me I'm sick of Stephen A. Smith. I'm sick of Cam. I'm sick of Jason Whitlock. I was told a long time ago, if you work in media, the things that kills off media people is indifference. I was told by Colin Cowherd when I was very young that he didn't matter if he was right, if he was wrong, if they liked him, if they didn't like him. All it mattered that if they was talking about him.
Yep.
And all it mattered if they were engaging with them. And, I took that, to heart because it works. And when we talk about, like, the reason drug dealers sell drugs is for money. So, if I'm working a regular job and, I'm from, the north side of St. Louis, if I'm working a regular job and I'm making, $20, $15 an hour, or I can make $10,000 a day doing this, what I'm doing, that's why Stephen A. does it. It's because he's making $20 million. So they're telling him that what you're doing is correct because they're financing it. And when someone finances something, it's like, well, that's why I was trying to tell Dan Orlovsky. He's always upset and his feelings are always hurt. I'm like, do you get paid? Yeah. Are they bringing you on the show? Yeah. Then go have some ice cream with your daughters and don't worry about what anybody got to say or got to say. As long as the check is clearing and they keep having you on the show, why are you crying about Pat McAfee?
Yeah.
Pat McAfee doesn't care.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have feelings about him. He's like, I don't give a S word.
Yep, he does not care.
I make $40 million.
Yep, absolutely. And I get that. I actually had a good friend of mine, somebody I went to high school with recently, who said, somebody was hate tweeting me or, posting one of these things, comments on my Instagram. And one of my friends was like, how do you deal with that? And I'm like, it just comes with the territory. Yeah. Like, it doesn't even, very little of that stuff has ever fazed me. Unless you get really personal, there's one or two trigger words for me. Unless, it's very hard to get under my skin at this point because I've been doing it for so long. You've done
it all, right?
I've done it for so long.
It doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't matter. We're going to continue the conversation. Robert Littell's going to hang out with us. Caleb Williams and Iceman Gervin. You've got to hear this next. Robert Littell and I hanging out on a Friday, as we always do here on Sports Wrap. Chewing over the fat, some of the top stories of the week, some of the not-so-top stories of the week. George Gervin's pissed at Caleb Williams. Who the hell had that one on their bingo card for 2026? Could be in 2027, too. You never know. For people that didn't see this is bonkers. So apparently Caleb Williams, somebody gave him the nickname Iceman. Did he? I never even knew that was a nickname of his. But anyway, so Caleb Williams put in for a trademark to all things Iceman. Now, some of you might be a little older and remember one of the great NBA players, one of the top 50 of all time, George Gervin, the Iceman. He was the original Iceman, and to this day, people still call him the Iceman, George Gervin. Well, apparently, George Gervin found out, much to his chagrin, that Caleb Williams had filed for a trademark. So now George Gervin went in and said, well, I want a trademark. The problem is he went in 4 days after Caleb Williams did. So now Caleb Williams may have the rights to it. And the only thing I will say in Caleb Williams' defense is this. You're George Gervin. You've been the Iceman for 40 years. Why didn't you apply for the trademark earlier?
That's
it's a business world. In this world of business and how litigious we can be and all that, why wouldn't George Gervin? I'm not saying Caleb Williams is in the right here. But why, if you're George Gervin, did you never file for this?
That's odd to me, isn't it? Because I still see to this day George Iceman Gervin that they're using them NBA, commercials when they're talking, old school. I was shocked to find out that he didn't have some protection. Now, the only reason I think maybe he doesn't is because the Iceman itself, there's a couple of different, entities that use that, obviously Top Gun is one. Obviously, the big one that maybe has stopped people before was Marvel, has an Iceman that's an X-Men. I also think the Iceman is Ben Keyhole from Another 48 Hours, but that tells you how old I am. So my thought process is maybe, he tried before and they got blocked and everything. But but on the flip side of that, like you said, nobody calls Caleb Williams the Iceman. And nobody's ever going to call him the Iceman. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can give yourself a nickname and it sticks. Other times, not so much. Like Mr. Unlimited for Russell Wilson. I don't think this works. I think he gets denied the trademark not because of George Gervin, but because of these other entities that I've talked about.
I just think it's amazing that George Gervin. Again, my big beef with him on this is you should have filed for it because now it looks like sour grapes because you had 40 years to do this.
You did have a long time.
You had 40 years. All the respect in the world to him, one of the great San Antonio Spurs. His number hangs in the rafters there. Gino Auriemma said something really interesting. And I know you get into the women's basketball stuff, and you were into it before everybody was jumping on the backs of the WNBA when Caitlin Clark became big and all that stuff. Gino Auriemma, the head coach at UConn, who is one of the greatest head coaches of all time in any sport, has come out and said he thinks Title IX is dead. And he thinks NIL has a lot to do with the fact that you're paying athletes now. You have athletic departments with all this money, and they're going to shift it towards what is most popular, what is going to generate the most money for the schools. That isn't going to be women's basketball in a lot of cases. Is there something to be said for what he has put out there, this idea that Title IX really is dead as a result of this?
Well, they put it in, for protection reasons and to make sure that women athletes, got treated fairly and had the resources that they needed because obviously they're different than men athletes in a way. I do feel like the way that women athletes get in 2026, the trajectory that they're on may make it less likely. I mean, the UConn athletes that have come out, say, in the 2020s, I would say have it a lot better than the UConn athletes that came out in the 90s and 80s and everything as far as opportunities of on the court, off the court. Now you see the thing with the WNBA. You have stuff like Unrivaled. I would say Paige Beckers is, if not the top 3, top 4 most popular players, and big time popularity, like crossover popularity, not just in the sport. So I can understand why he would think that. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. It's like we wouldn't need stuff like the Rooney Rule if there was actually, progress that was, happening. So, I mean, I think you still want, of course, the protections, for them, for certain things that men don't have to deal with. But I think the opportunities, those different type of protections, I would say some UConn women's basketball players are more popular than the men. If they were both, like, say, to be in the Final Four, I think there's a lot of people that would watch UConn women more than the men. So I think they're at a different level right now, and that's a good thing. So I don't know how he perceived it, but I perceive it as somewhat of a good thing.
In the last minute, did you watch the baseball on Netflix the other night?
No.
Oh, I did not. Come on.
I watched Peacock. I mean, there's a lot of different channels that's going on here. I watched Peacock last night. I saw some of the clips of Jameis Winston.
Oh, my God.
So I seen some of the highlights, of it. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm still a purist. I just want to watch the game.
God, now you sound like Brian Kenny on the show yesterday.
For almost everything, basketball, football, but I show up I've took that channel on 1 minute before the game starts, and and then when the game is over, I'm out. So all the extracurricular stuff, I hate it. Even like at the World Series, at the NBA Finals. Even if I'm at the NBA Finals, I'm at the concession stand. I don't like all the hullabaloo. I'm just, when the game is on, when Ohtani's on the plate, that's what I'm in.
All right, Boomer. Whatever.
I am a Boomer.
Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, friend of the show. Always good to see you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
You too. I'm out.
Welcome back to the show. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. A couple of interesting notes to get to before we depart for the weekend. But if it's a Friday on Sports Wrap, it can only mean one thing. Well, two things. Robert Littal, who's already been here. And this guy to talk NASCAR, Tino Pattigno, is here, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a NASCAR Friday. Sirius XM Radio NASCAR handicapper. Also see him on Tubi on the weekends as well. We love Tubi in this house. So I always make sure to check it out. Our friend Tino Pattigno, you almost had a big one that you reeled in last weekend. If anybody watched last Friday on the show, Tino said Chris Buescher was one of the guys that he was going to put a few shekels on, going off at like 41-1 or 33-1. I don't know. It was some big number. And damn near final stage, I'm watching the race. I turned it on and I go, wow, Chris Buescher's winning. And I'm like, this Tino Pattigno, man, he knows what's going on. Tyler Reddick does wind up winning, though, Tino, and I am anxious to get your thoughts about his fourth win of the season before we jump into Martinsville this week. Tyler Reddick's fourth win of the season, just when you thought he might be cooling off a little bit.
Yeah, the history-making continues for Tyler Reddick in his historic start this season. 4 wins in the first 6 races. 2 other drivers in history able to pull off that feat, Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott. So it just kind of shows the group of, the nature of how big this is for Tyler Reddick and that team, the speed that they're bringing. But I also want to note, it's not just the fact that they bring fast cars. It's how they're winning these races. I mean, they had to replace a battery mid-race for Tyler Reddick at Darlington, and that's a track where you don't want to lose track position. You normally cannot drive through the field as easily and pass cars as much as Tyler Reddick was able to do on Sunday. So a tip of the cap to him for the mental toughness, the adversity. That's the difference between this season to last season. Aside from the wins, it's the fact that when things go wrong, they lose a whole front fender at Atlanta, they stay in it, able to win that one. Coda, loose wheel, beat SVG. Everything's coming together for him and that team, and I'm not surprised by him having these wins early, but I'm definitely surprised by how strong they continue to be week in and week out.
If he's been the biggest winner in this early part of the season, which is undeniable, 4 wins in the first 6 races of the season, who's been the biggest loser as a result of him being the biggest winner?
Oh, that's a great question. It's going to be some of these drivers that were hoping to capitalize on some of these races that Tyler Reddick has won. I look at SVG's been racing really strongly, but he's got to feel like with the gap that's opening, right? With the chase and everything like that, he would hope to have a win at Coda right there. So that's the biggest loser for him. Coda, that's your track he would have liked to have. RFK, they bring a lot of speed. That's the Brad Keselowski, Buescher, Priest cars, but they ultimately lost out because Reddick won last weekend over them. I would say if I were to pinpoint one driver, though, instead of a few examples, Chase Briscoe right now to me is the biggest loser, and it's not because of Reddick's performance, it's because of their poor performances while Reddick is having these wins. Because when you look at the standings right now, Tyler Reddick is 95 points ahead of Ryan Blaney in second. So when you're a driver like Chase Briscoe, although he has opportunities in the future to win and claw back, if you're having miscues early on, it's just going to be further and further down and harder to climb out of that hole.
All right, let's talk about Martinsville in the final few minutes we have here. You look at the odds for this race. Ryan Blaney plus 450 on FanDuel. William Byron at plus 550. Denny Hamlin, who won this race a year ago, at plus 600. You got to go all the way down to 15-1, by the way, before you find Tyler Reddick. Give me some thoughts on who you like this week and who you don't like.
So the first drivers are the favorites, right? Ryan Blaney, rightfully so. 11 top fives in the last 16 Martinsville races, which is very impressive. William Byron dominated this race in the fall most recently. Denny Hamlin won this race in the spring. Those are the three that I have my eye on to win it. But if we're looking for a little bit more value out there, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, plus 850 around there for those two drivers. This short track package that we're seeing again be brought, which is new, a higher increase in horsepower. So that's going to be interesting to see. More tire fall off. That's something to where we can compare it to North Wilkesboro Speedway, tracks where Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell won before. The Clash as well at Bowman Gray. Ryan Preece, this is going to be my underdog play of the week. We talked about Buescher last weekend. Preece is on the same team, plus 1,800 to get the job done. Ooh. If it's not going to be a Hamlin or a chalky play like Blaney, I'd go with Ryan Preece this weekend to win it.
Wow. I've got a minute and a half if you've got some other, potential surprises in there or picks you might want to throw out to people.
Well, Tyler Reddick did say that the world may end if he ended up winning this race this weekend, and rightfully so. It's not one of his better tracks. He's struggling to get a top 10 at this place.
Why is that? Why is that?
It doesn't fit his driving style, right? He's not a high intensity, short track type of driver. He's the high speed guy. Rip the fence like last week at Darlington is his style. Now to go back with his team though, although they're bringing higher, speeds and raw speed to the racetrack, Bubba Wallace in the last 3 spring Martinsville races, 9th, 4th, and 3rd. So this race, the difference between the spring and the fall is very apparent. It's 100 laps shorter, which does make a lot of difference in terms of strategy. The temperature changes will be different. I look for Bubba Wallace to have a strong run in this one. Maybe not the win, but if Reddick keeps bringing the speed, he's a part of the same team. Why not a strong top 5 run for him?
All right, so again, your winner is?
Winner is going to be, let's go with Chase Elliott winner. Second play will be Ryan Preece. I got to have at least 2 for you guys.
All right. I like that. That's fair. Because then I when I'm watching the race on Sunday, you give me something to sort of feast on. And if Bubba Wallace wins and Michael Jordan's 23XI Racing wins 5 of the first 7 races this year, other people's heads are going to explode too. Tino Pattigno, catch him on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio this weekend on Tubi as well. Always appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy the race.
Thank you.
Just about time to put this baby to bed for another week. Don't forget, a few reminders before we go. Sports Wrap Weekends. Monday through Friday, you've got this daily version that we do, 1 hour. It's great. But we also have a weekend edition on many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listing for time and schedule. It could be on a sister station in your market. 30-minute wrap-up show of everything we talked about during the week. Sometimes we have some extra bonus content in there, so you're going to want to check out Sports Wrap Weekends on your cable dial, broadcast dial, streaming dial, wherever you may get it. All right. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast. The audio version of this show, Monday through Friday, available wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 45 minutes, very limited commercials, and it's fantastic. It works just as well as the TV show does. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. We put a lot of work into that YouTube channel. It is the Monday through Friday TV version of the show, 45 minutes, commercial-free, waiting there for you early every afternoon. A lot of times you can watch it there before you watch it anywhere else. Sports Wrap with Jason Page on the YouTube channel. We also have our companion podcasts there as well. The NBA Weekly, the Sports Wrap Spotlight. You get all of it when you subscribe for free to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap Shorts are also available there. These are 1 to 3 minute long videos recapping the top stories of the day. When they break, we jump in with a Sports Wrap short and get it on there for you. Go and check those out as well. Sports Wrap Shorts available on the YouTube channel. Also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, you guessed it, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay on this Friday edition of the show, there's only one thing left to do. It's time for some odds. and ends. Odds and ends, and Shams Charania over at ESPN had it first, so I want to give him credit because I'm going to be going through some of the outline of the story that he helped contribute to over at ESPN. 3 comprehensive anti-tanking proposals from the NBA. Again, this to combat tanking in the league. So Adam Silver reportedly has 3 proposals that would be huge departures from what the league is currently doing. In the first, sources told Shams that 18 teams, the bottom 10 that miss the play-in tournament, and the 8 that qualify for it, all will be part of the draft lottery. The bottom 10 teams will have an equal 8% chance of moving up in the lottery, with the remaining 20% of the odds being split among the 8 play-in teams and in descending order from 11th through 18th. All 18 spots will be drawn as part of the lottery in that format. Another proposal, 22 teams, the bottom 10 teams that miss the play-in tournament, the 8 that qualify for it, and the 4 playoff teams that lose in the first round will all be included in the lottery. That's interesting. They'd be ranked according to their record across 2 seasons. The last part, weighting teams by their record across the prior 2 seasons, is how the WNBA weights its lottery system. You know, you look at this. They're going to try all these different things. Teams are still going to try to circumvent it. No matter what they do, there's always going to be people out there who are trying to be smarter than the system. It's like, testing for performance-enhancing drugs. All right, they figured out how to test for this one. We're going to come up with a new designer drug. There's always going to be people trying to cheat the system. But give credit to the NBA, they're trying. The third proposal, a 5x5 method. In this one, the same 18 teams from the first proposal, the bottom 10 that missed the play-in plus the 8 that would make it would be entered into the lottery. Teams with the 5 worst records would then all have the same odds, with them descending from there, and there would be a lottery drawing for each of the top 5 picks in the draft. The second one, I have to admit, is the most intriguing to me, because then you're actually taking teams that make the playoffs, granted, eliminated in the first round, and you're putting them into the lottery. What if you have a team that's a 1 seed and gets eliminated in the first round of the playoffs? Just, an injury happens or something like that, and you've got a top seed, say the Celtics or the Pistons or the Spurs or the Thunder, and now they have a chance at the number 1 overall pick in the draft? I just don't know how that could fly. Imagine the Thunder getting eliminated in the opening round because SGA goes down with an injury. And just, Phoenix gets in and they figure out. I'm just saying, it could happen. And the moment that happens, I think this proposal number 2 goes out the window, which is probably why I don't think it would get taken. I don't think it could be given as much consideration. We'll see what happens. Kudos to the NBA for trying to do something about it. It's a big problem. There's a ton of blowouts in the league right now. Hats off Alex Ovechkin, the 34th hat trick of his NHL career last night in a win against the Utah Mammoth, 7-4, with a zillion goals. I'm still trying to figure out how he only has 34 hat tricks. 34 hat trick? The guy's got over 1,000 career goals when you consider the playoffs. I think he's at 926 now for regular season goals, by the way. 926 goals. I don't think he's going to get to 1,000 regular season goals. If he wanted to play longer, he could, but he's going to have to play beyond next year, and I don't think that's going to happen. Still, an amazing accomplishment for Alex Ovechkin, who just continues to do it. As long as he's on the ice, he's a threat to put one in the net. It's going to wrap it up for us on this Friday edition of the show. Great week of shows. Thanks to everybody who hung out with us throughout the week. Thank you to Robert Lital for jumping in for an extra segment today. Tino Pattigno, of course, who does a great job on NASCAR with SiriusXM and Tubi. Thanks to all of you at home for watching. Have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. We'll see you all back here on Monday for more Sports Wrap. Bye-bye. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.